Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year to everybody. Big, exciting year this year, I think, for us all. Let's hope it's a better one than we've had before, shall we? Just to remind everybody that the meeting is being live streamed and that when you come to speak, please put your light on and turn it off when you finish speaking. Thank you very much. I'm going to go straight into apologies. Have we any?
None, Chair.
Okay. So we have a couple of members not here, but I'm assuming they'll come in as the meeting goes on. Okay. So apologies for absence. Can I sign the published record for the meeting of the 23rd of November and the 6th of December, please? Yep. Thank you very much. We now move on to item, well, we have no business not covered by the current forward plan, none of special urgency, and we move on to references from committees and other bodies. And the first one is a reference from the LJNCC asking us to change the quorum down so that the employees side and the employers side both have the same quorum, which seems a very sensible solution. Are we happy to agree that? Agreed. Thank you. We now move on to inclusive growth. Item 2, the reference from Overview Scrutiny Board. Do you want to say anything, David?
Oh, yes, please. Hazel, thank you. I had hoped that I might be able to present what the Overview and Scrutiny Board wanted you to look at without reference at all to the original report that went to the board, but I can't because it was so disappointing. What the board members asked for was a short report explaining how the council could achieve something. What it got instead was an 8-page list of reasons why the council shouldn't even try to do it. And I find that really very disappointing. In support of the argument that the council shouldn't try to do it, a list of 150 open spaces were listed. Many of these are just slivers, grass verges. I just wanted to make it quite clear that the report that came was a great disappointment to most of the members of the board. Parks and green open spaces in Luton are disappearing under concrete, and what the report did give us is a real serious opportunity for you to start a gradual process of protecting those parks and green open spaces that we do have left. We well appreciate that there are budget implications, but at the officer's estimate of £2,500 per open space that you want to have a go at protecting, £2,500, you can afford to do 1 or 2 a year. OSB isn't asking you to do them all at once. It's asking you to make a start and to take as many years as it takes. But please make a start at £2,500 per park. Then you really can afford to do 1 or 2 a year. That's all OSB is asking you to do. Thank you.
Abbas, are you responding on this occasion?
Yes, I am, Chair. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Franks. I'll answer some of Councillor Franks' questions that he's raised as well during my speech. So Luton benefits from some fantastic parks and green spaces. Throughout the pandemic, we all have come up to appreciate how important these facilities are to the health and the well-being of residents. We are proud to have retained green flag status on 6 parks last year, and will continue to strive and ensure that we retain those awards, as well as improving facilities in other parks across the town. The motion requests that we start the process of progressing deed of dedication arrangements with friends in trust to protect our parks and green spaces. This process is important, new to us. We already have 7 parks that are subject to fields in trust deed of dedication: Memorial Park, Leagrave Park, Lucy Park, Stopney Common, Lothier Road, Stockwood Park, Icknield and Crawley Green Recreation Grounds. A further deed of dedication relating to the new Wandon Park is already being progressed with fields in trust and will be in place before the park is opened. Other protections that our parks enjoy include Grade 2 listed status for Warden Park, and we have 3 sites, especially scientific interest. In addition, the local plan restricts the loss of parks and green spaces. However, we do appreciate the benefits that the deed of dedication process brings and agree that we should continue to identify the most appropriate parks and green spaces to benefit from it. To assist this process, with this, we are developing a tool, a measure, a social value of our parks. This tool takes into account the range of factors, data set, including the index of multiple deprivation, levels of childhood obesity, population density, accessibility of green space, and environmental factors such as biodiversity. It is anticipated that we will be able to progress with at least 1 additional deed of dedication in the next 12 months. Just to rectify, Councillor Franks, it does not cost £2,500. The total for 1 park is around about £4,580. So that's 2,500 for the deed of dedication, £2,000 is for legal services, and £80 is for a site land registry charge. So it is not £2,500, it's around about £4,580 one costs. But we have been doing this, Chair, since 2012. The last park, Luton Hoo Memorial, was 2019 when it was put into deed of dedications, and we are looking to put another one by end of this year. So we have been doing this all along. We are not in the same level as Liverpool Council are, where they've decided to put all of their parks into this category, but slowly and surely we'll be getting there, and we are already doing this process for many years.
Okay, thank you, Abbas. Are there any other questions from anybody else?
Just a comment.
Yes.
Yeah, just to further what Abbas has said, we as a Labour group made a policy that we will protect these parks, as some of those parks are very well managed and they are some of the best in the country. So we made a conscious decision to ensure that they offer the best value to our residents with activities and play areas, investing in them, whether they were outdoor gyms and so forth. But there was never planned any development of any sort for our town, because we got limited space, and we've been honouring that, and we've been investing quite heavily to make sure that they serve our residents, whether it's cycling groups, walking groups, playing areas, or whether it's cricket or football pitches. We've had more investment in this town than anywhere else in enhancing our facilities, and we've got more plans to make them even more user-friendly. So just backing up what Abbas has said.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor.
Sorry, Andy.
That's all right. Yes, while I would recognise that often the perspective put forward by the opposition doesn't necessarily take into account the things that we have been doing.
Andy, could you speak into your microphone?
Yeah, it does also seem that it could be really useful to kind of come to a joint perspective by coming up with a plan, a timeline for how other parks will move into this status over time, because it's something we are doing. That's what the answer that you've outlined is, and I think actually, it would probably assuage some of the scrutiny committee's concerns if we were able to pull together a timeline with the Parks Department as to, we've got these parks that aren't in this protected status yet. Let's put together a plan for how we might do that over the next, like what the next 5 or 10 years looks like. It's something we've been doing for 10 years. We're going to carry on doing it. But what does that actually look like? Then people have got an answer, haven't they?
And to answer that, Andy, that is why we have asked for this report, a tool, a mechanism in place. Till that is ready, but I have been assured that we will have one park in 2022. But then it is a budget issue, so I don't want to really commit that we'll be doing one every year if I cannot reach those budget targets. But we will look every year, and if we are able to put 1 or 2, we will do that. But I'm not guaranteeing anything at this moment because I don't have that mechanism tool or the data in front of me either. So moving on, we are doing that work. And we've been doing this Fields in Trust for many years. It's nothing new. And just coming back off Councillor Aslam, we have in parks now started putting investment into our parks. Today, I've been involved in 3 meetings with Jane Conway and a company that's going to be putting extra gym equipment in Leagrave Park and the 2 parks in Dallow. Abbottswood Road Park has just been approved as well. So we are doing a lot of stuff in parks and upgrading their equipment with gym equipment and everything as well. So, I am very proud of our parks. And to be honest with you, in that OSB meeting, Councillor Franks raised that he has a list of 15 locations where we have bulldozed over and built something on. Until this day, we've not seen that list of those locations either. So under the local plan, we are secured. Under the deed of dedication, we are secured, and we'll be doing this for a little while. So, and I agree with Councillor Frank's motion that he put forward.
Rob.
Yeah, thank you. Well, no one would disagree with the motion, and we are saying we are doing, but I'm a little bit confused, I must admit, because the local plan is quite clear what it allows us to do and what it doesn't allow us to do. And the deed of dedications I read here is exactly the same as the local plan. If you can say to the historic, or the Historic England Protection, but we're going to build a better park, they will let you have it, reading what it said here. So I'm not sure what we're going to achieve by it, in all fairness, because the protection is there already in the local plan. And if we can do what we do in the local plan now and prove that to the Historic England, if we needed to, they normally would say, yeah, you can do it because you're going to build something better. So I'm a little bit confused, in all fairness, I must admit.
Can you deal with that confusion, Abbas?
But so the local plan I agree with. It is secure enough for Luton. Yeah, definitely is. But then the deed of the dedication we've been doing, for a little while, since 2012, our first park went in, and it gives that extra insurance. But we are not in a position to go fully out, put every single of the 150 spaces that we have left into this deed of dedication that costing near enough £800,000. We cannot do that. But coming back off that, I am willing to put 1 park this year into that deed of dedication, review it. Yeah, and if I can do anything in the future, we will add more to that. Yeah. But at the minute, we cannot put everything onto the deed of dedication like Liverpool have. Not at all.
I think that's in the spirit of what the debate was about. Yes, David?
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to respond. Just 2 very quick points, really. First of all, the local plan is something that historically Luton Council has chosen to ignore when it finds it convenient to do that. So it doesn't actually offer any serious protection. And just for Abbas's benefit, no one has ever asked me for a list of the 15 parks. If he would like a copy, I'll be very happy to email it to him, and I can do that tomorrow.
Do you want to come back on that? Nothing else? No, that's okay. Tom?
Yes, I do. Just like I say, the 15 parks that Councillor Franks talks about, some of them are roundabouts and stuff like that. They were open space many years ago. The local plan protects the council and protects the people of Luton. Wandon End is where a lot of the argument comes from. But what's being replaced at Wandon End is bigger and better than what's already there. You know, everyone's ignoring that fact. I was at a meeting just before Christmas where the stupid argument come up where it's not even in Luton. You took one step over the boundary and you may be in Hertfordshire, but you're in the new Wandon End Park. So it's just an argument what people are trying to cause to, I can't understand some of it. And what the plan says, and housing's had to go through you often enough, is if you take a piece of open space, you've got to replace that piece of open space. And for everyone that Councillor Franks comes up with, you will probably find there's been a new piece of open space or an improved piece of open space put in the area, like our hill, what you fought against.
Just to comment on one.
No, I'm going to bring this to a close now because I think that Aslam Abbas has clearly given an answer to the query from OSB and said exactly what we're going to be doing for the future. So I think that is the way forward, and we'll take it back to OSB on that agenda, if you don't mind, Aslam.
Sure.
Is that agreed by everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Now we move on to, there was no recommendations from scrutiny reviews, no petitions, and we're on to item 8, the maladministration report. Is that for yourself, Abbas?
Yes, it is, Chair. I hope everybody's read the report on item 8. In accordance with the Local Government and the Housing Act, the Executive is required to consider the reports of maladministration issued by the Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman. The Ombudsman is an independent body that investigates complaints about the Council. This is an important role which we acknowledge ensures that the residents have access to impartial review of their case. It provides an opportunity for the Council to review its practices and make improvements based on any recommendation of the Ombudsman's case. In October 2021, the Ombudsman issued a report of maladministration stating that the Council failed to provide a resident with the relevant information on the community trigger or to activate it in relation to an antisocial behaviour case which had been reported to us. The LGO found that this amounted to a maladministration causing the injustice, and the Council was recommended to pay the compensation of £250 and to implement some remedial actions in relation to the community trigger. In relation to this case, the substantial findings are that the Council did not provide the complainant with the sufficient information on her ability to activate the community trigger in relation to an ongoing report she had been making on antisocial behaviour, and secondly, that the Council did not undertake the community trigger in relation to her case. These four findings are fully accepted by the Council. Community triggers are also called the antisocial behaviour case reviews, are a helpful tool for residents as it allows them to request a formal review of their case. They also allow agencies to review the actions being taken to address the particular case and to establish any further actions which might be taken. There have been a low number of requests for community triggers in Luton, which is similar to many other areas prior to receiving the Ombudsman's findings. This had already been recognised by the community safety partners in Bedfordshire, who have been developing a county-wide approach in improving awareness and take-up of the community trigger and establishing robust mechanisms to process its case. The Council has already implemented a number of actions which are on paragraphs 11, 12, 13, downwards all the way to the end of the report at number 20. The findings in this report have assisted the Council in making some valuable improvements to the services offered to the victims of antisocial behaviour and will complement the work already underway. Case management and support continues to be available to the complainant. I propose that we accept the recommendations to note this report.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, I think we've got to accept the recommendations with no choice about that, but people have got to realise the community trigger means that a lot of agencies get involved and that kind of stuff. And the police at the moment in Bedfordshire don't see minor antisocial behaviour as one of their top priorities, unless we can convince the police and everyone else that once a community trigger is action, then they have got to be part of it. But the case, what it's about, is one of the hardest to deal with that any councillor can come across. Every one of us in here, sooner or later, will come across. I've just had to deal with one on our hill, where the alleyway was fully filled up with building materials, but people on each side of that alleyway had access to the backyard. One person decided not to do it, but when we went up there, when I went up and sat down with both sides, pointed out what the deed said for the property, that they both had access to it, he got it moved. This time you had a tenant and an owner occupier involved in it. The community trigger, one of the reasons that haven't been used over the years is you had mediation, where mediation used to be able to sort some of them things out. And you had an extreme one on Lucy Farm on Leeway By Street, where the bloke built the 9-inch wall down the middle of the footpath because he'd read on there that he had access, so he decided he was going to keep that access. A lot more than mediation had to be done on that one. But it's one of the most difficult ones councillors will come across. I do feel that the council's partnerships on that kind on antisocial behaviour needs strengthening. You know, I can give you a perfect example somewhere where we got someone to sign an acceptable behaviour contract, and it was a worse family on one of our estates, and on the verge of being evicted. So when they signed this acceptable behaviour contract, they must have thought it was money from heaven because the eviction order got withdrawn, and all they'd had to do was sign a piece of paper saying that they'll make the kids behave themselves. Then kids never behaved themselves. They ended up in jail, both of them. But they got a piece of paper and it gave them another 6 months in the property. I do feel we need to strengthen it, but we can't strengthen it by ourselves. A perfect example in the report, I believe one of the neighbours was kicking the door and threatening through the door. Well, to me, that's threatening words and behaviour. But the police straight away should have been up there taking action against it. But because it's seen as low-level neighbourhood nuisance, it don't become one of their top priorities. You know, but to me, that's using threatening words and behaviour. Housing can do it, private sector can do it, mediation, I don't think we make enough use of anymore, because they can sort a lot of them kind of disputes out. We've got to accept the report, but hopefully what will come out of it is that all the agencies that are involved in it will get sat down on the table together. Housing must get 50 a week, 50 a month about antisocial behaviour. Some of them will come off the police themselves saying, can you get this sorted out? What are they doing? You know, they're there, what are they doing? And we need to get that partnership strengthened an awful lot more. And, you know, I could probably add a dozen cases what I could talk about, but unless all the partnership is working together, it will never work. But community triggers are supposed to be the thing what will get the police and get social service, get everyone involved in something. But if one of the partners ain't got time to do it and ain't got the funding to do it, the whole thing about community trigger doesn't work. A lot of the other councils what do use a lot of community triggers don't have the mediation service what we have here anyway. And that's one of the big things, you know, it's all like the ombudsman and ombudsman's reports, our ombudsman's report, they look at the pure facts in the case. But we do put money into mediation. I'd have thought at an early stage, recognising the kind of problem it was, even though it was a tenant and an owner occupier fighting with each other, that the mediation service should have been fetched in at a much earlier stage. If there's any fault on our part, I think that's it, that we didn't fetch the mediation service in early enough. There's one we can never win, the ombudsman will find against us, but hopefully what will come out of it is all the agencies joining together. And if our people say this is beyond just an housing matter or private, you know, it's beyond an argument between an owner occupier about dual access of a footpath, which is what it was about in the beginning, then the police can get involved in other people. But we pay, I think it's about 20 grand a year to mediation service to act on our behalf. 15, 20 grand, something like that. Let's start using it as much as we possibly can. I forget what the actual grant is we're given, but I know it's quite a few £1,000 each year.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Aslam?
Yeah, Tom is dead right. It's a very complex situation when it comes to low-level antisocial behavior. We've got people with more cars than ever, and if they are council tenants, we've got some powers. But if they're private homeowners, and if you're blocking each other's drives, even if you use the trigger, and if it's a highway-related issue, that's for the police to enforce. And with police, every time you talk to them, they say their priorities are different, they're under-resourced. And the amount of low-level sort of antisocial behavior you have, not just in this borough, across the country, it's impossible to enforce. It's about people taking on responsibility, becoming a better human beings. And if mediation services involved, if they give any recommendations, again, it's up to their sort of prerogative whether they're going to follow it or not. So in this case, I can understand the ombudsman has seen a failure, but even if you initiate that trigger, you know, because of all the other agencies involved, if even one doesn't pull their weight, it's very difficult to solve these situations. So although we can accept it, but you know, under the current circumstances, with all the limitations in resources, it's a very complex situation.
Okay, thank you. Sarah?
Thank you. So, yes, Tom is right. Low-level antisocial behaviour, neighbour disputes are difficult to deal with. This was a really long-standing complaint, went on over a period of time, and actually the complaints were investigated, and ourselves, Housing ASB and the police all got involved in over a long period of time dealing with these issues. Mediation would normally stop us getting to this point. Mediation was offered to this resident 3 times and was turned down. But the Ombudsman is absolutely right. The community trigger could have been activated at a point and we didn't activate it. And that would have instigated a multi-agency review. Our actions to address that we have already commenced with those. And the training that is referenced in paragraph 15 was a multi-agency training event. We had a whole day with partners from across the county, including the police, including the third sector and frontline services from within our council, to make sure that we all fully understand what our roles are, how we can work together, how we can better support victims of ASB, but also how, when cases escalate like this one, we come together to ensure that the reviews are effective and that we offer the best possible service to our residents.
Thank you, Sarah. Rob?
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of questions, really. I can see about the training being put in here. Are we satisfied it's just a training issue? Are we satisfied, you know, the training is actually going to deal with this? Because, or is it what we might say a resource issue?
I think there was an awareness issue in relation to this particular complaint, in relation to this case. Community trigger reviews are exceptionally resource intensive, and all agencies will feel that resource. It's a full review of everything that's happened, and sometimes what's happened over a really long period of time. But to address that resource issue, we have entered into an arrangement with our neighbouring boroughs where we will support each other so that we can have that really truly independent review of the actions that we've taken. So we're sharing that burden across all the agencies and the partners within the county.
Just one more question, really, on the key risks. I don't know if I'm reading this correctly, but it doesn't sound right, the key risks. It says the key risks are that the actions will not bring about the planned improvements to the service, and further maladministration reports may be issued. I would have thought the key risk was if we didn't agree to this, then that would be, you know, not bring back the planned improvements. I don't know if I'm misreading that, but that sounds to me though we could agree to it, but there would still be a problem maybe.
Yeah, I think that your wording would be more appropriate. We need to report to the Ombudsman the actions that we've taken, and they need to be satisfied that those actions address the recommendations that they have made. We're confident that they do, and we're confident that already we're seeing that the actions that we've taken are paying off in terms of how we're dealing with frequent complainants, long-standing cases. We've instigated case reviews already, so we're confident that we have the staff who have got the training and the awareness, that we've got the resources that we've allocated within the teams and across the county, and that these actions will ensure that these recommendations are addressed.
Okay, Rob. Anybody else? Abbas, did you want to come back? No.
No, I think Sarah said what I had to say.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Thank
fine.
you.
Thank you.
Happy to note the report.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. We now move into private.